Hey there, MotoAmerica fans. This is Paul Carruthers. I'm your host of Off Track. It's MotoAmerica's weekly podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Sean Bice. Excuse me. That's where we come up with the name there. Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. It means that there's also a Bice. So let's bring Sean in and talk to him real quick. Sean, you freezing your ass off yet?
Yeah, I mean it's up and down with the weather. I don't know. Last time we talked, we had gotten a fair amount of snow. Well, man, the Northeast got hammered. Up where my brother-in-law lives in Binghamton, they got like 3 feet. We didn't get that much, and it's all gone now. It's chilly right now, but it's not horrible. We had some rain yesterday, and that's easier for me to shovel. So I'm okay with it. Looking forward to Christmas. Christmas coming up here at the end of the week. It's amazing how it goes. You come down to this time of the year, and you go right from Christmas to New Year's, and before we know it, it's 2021, and hopefully we put all this disaster behind us and get racing pretty soon here. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be good to go racing. I'm actually in Phoenix or Scottsdale, Arizona, so the weather's a bit different than what you've got. But
a little bit. Wow.
I'm here for a few days, just on a little vacation, and then before the holiday, and then I jet back to San Diego and hang out with my parents and stuff on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and then back home after that. And New Year's it doesn't seem like a big deal to me anymore. I just basically, trying to stay awake until I try to stay awake till it's at least midnight in the East, Yeah. But it's how that goes. It's like, man, I'm used to going to bed at 9:30, 10 at the latest. I can't make it till midnight anymore.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned Scottsdale. So I don't want to give away the whereabouts of our faithful photographer Brian J. Nelson, but is that where he lives?
I think he's like Flagstaff.
Oh, you're right. It is Flagstaff.
Yeah, that I don't know too much about it. I've never actually been there, but I think it's a little bit more like in the mountains, like not so deserty as it is here.
Yeah, he gets weather there, which is interesting.
Yeah, he does. He gets weather. Here they don't get weather. They just get hot and hotter.
Yeah. Hey, are you actually in Scottsdale because of our guest today?
Yeah, that's exactly that's exactly why I chose Scottsdale. I could have we could have gone to I could have gone to Fredville or something, but it just wouldn't have worked. So our guest today, let me introduce him, is Scott Russell. A lot of you would know him as Mr. Daytona because he won that little race down there in Florida 5 times. He's a 3-time Supersport Champion, 1992 AMA Superbike Champion, 1993 World Superbike Champion. 1995, he was a fill-in rider in Grand Prix racing for Kevin Schwantz. And one of the things, this is one of the things I wanted to bring up when talking to Scott and bringing Scott in. It's like he finished 6th in the 500cc World Championship in 1996, and nobody really even talks about that.
Right.
And he had 2 podiums. I mean, if one of our guys went over there now and got freaking 1 podium, we'd do backflips naked through freaking Central Park. And this guy got 2 podiums and 6 in the championship this wasn't down years of MotoGP by any means. This was tough competition. Yes. And he went over there and did the business, and nobody ever talks about it, which I think is kind of sad. But anyway, he's won the Suzuka 8-hour. He's in the AMA Hall of Fame. Now he's a freaking kook on the bicycle. He rides like 9,000 miles a year. My goal is every year I look and I see what he rode last year, and my goal is to try to ride half of that. And so I'm not going to be able to make it this year, but I'm going to blame COVID or something. But I try to do as much as I can, and I still have a job. I'm trying to keep the job anyway. So let's introduce, of course, by now, it's Scott Russell. And Scott, how are you today?
Doing good, Paul. Hey, Sean. Good to be here with you guys.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. We finally pinned you down and forced you in.
You did. I don't know. Hopefully it'll be good. I just didn't mean to dodge you a week or 2 ago. I don't know. Here we are. And, let's see how it goes.
Hey, you know how many times I just want to call Sean and tell him, nah, I'm not doing it?
I am a little
Yeah,
bit. I try to be persuasive for sure, and I think I pleaded to Scott and actually tried to show some tears to him and stuff. So, I'm glad you're on, Scott. It's hey, we'll transition. We'll get into what you're doing now, but we want to talk about what you did prior to what you're doing these days. But one of the things that Paul pointed out is this. Can you talk about when you were racing in GP? My goodness. I mean, to finish where you did, and like Paul said, it's not something that it's top of mind. I mean, they know you as Mr. Daytona, but there's so much more than that to Scott Russell's career. Can you talk about those GP?
Yeah, thank you. It's funny, now we've kind of run out of things to watch on TV, so we're watching all races. The other day we watched Suzuka Grand Prix from '96, which was definitely one of my best races. I podiumed there. But, coming off a Superbike, running 4-strokes your whole life, dreaming of riding a 2-stroke and being at the big show was always there for me. And then the opportunity arose when Kevin decided that he couldn't continue. And it was a weird timing because I just inked a deal with Rob and Kawasaki for a couple-of-year deal. And then this idea popped up and this opportunity came along. And, things weren't looking good on the Kawasaki side in 1995. We changed bikes, the new developed engine. And when we showed up in Europe, we were way off pace. I was 2 seconds off my previous times at some of the tracks. And the year was just starting out really badly. And then I got this call from, journalist Kel Edge, who I'm sure you guys are familiar with, came into the motorhome and said, "Look, your name's on the list to replace Swanson." It was funny to me at first. I thought, I'm 32 years old or whatever at the time, maybe 34. I thought, they want a young guy. So I couldn't sleep that night. We were at Misano, I believe. Ran the race the next day, got smoked. And then I called Kel. I said, let's try to make that happen. The meeting with Gary Taylor. And he made that 2 days later. I had to be in England. And there I was sitting in his office, and we had a good talk. And that after that talk, they had booked me a ticket that night to fly to Czechoslovakia, where the team had already been down there testing that day. And they had another day the following day that I could join. And I was like, let's go. And so flew down to Czechia, and a track that I really like and had good success in the Superbike with, and tested the bike and went really well. And by lunchtime, they had a contract for me to look at. So it happened quick. Like I said, at a weird time. I'm not proud of the fact that I had to break the contract with Kawasaki and Muzzy to move on to follow my dream, So what was a dream of mine kind of turned out to be almost a nightmare, really. The 500s were really hard to ride, no 2-stroke experience. And, I had a heavy throttle hand, so I was learning the hard way that those were pretty diabolical. And the Suzuki was in itself a hard bike to ride. And you just take a look back at Swanson's career, and he was either winning or he was crashing pretty much. And I experienced some of that, not the winning part, but the crashing part. But there I was at the big show that I've been waiting my whole life to get to. And so I had to take the opportunity, and that's how I got there.
Now finishing sixth in the championship the next year, did you realize, okay, this was worth it and this was the dream and it's as good as you thought it was going to be, or was it a letdown?
No, it was great. I mean, I was really, I had some rough luck on the 500 and crashed the first year, in that first half of the season, broke my wrist at Donington. So right away, it set me back, and I really didn't get a lot of seat time. So by 96, I had some time to kind of get it together, and we came out and had some better showings, and a couple of thirds. But I was happy I did it for myself. I needed to try. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long. But, finishing sixth that year, getting Rookie of the Year, that was a nice accomplishment, So you know, considering to be the top of the line in the sport. I felt like I just needed more time on the bike, and I would have been in a bit better shape. But at that time, the Hondas were super fast and really going well. So anytime, you know, Mick and those guys were out there going that well, it was going to be hard to win. But I showed them a couple of times that I could run with them, and led Czechoslovakia for most of the race. So just to have an opportunity to come there and prove that I could ride one and get on the box and, you know, run with doing a little bit here and there, it was cool.
Yeah, very.
But
cool.
It was short-lived.
Yeah. When you look back at a career that was obviously outstanding, I mean, there's AMA Superbike Champion, World Superbike Champion, the early 750 Supersport Championships, going GP racing. Is there one year that stands out for you that was like, I mean, nobody has a perfect year, but a year that when you just, everything was so good, you enjoyed it, you were enjoying you enjoyed every part of it. Is there any year that stands out as like the good year?
It would be 93, obviously, to win the World
93,
Championship.
baby. That's what it was, 93. Go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
Yeah. 93. Yeah, it was, you know, I mean, the start of the season was great. I remember you calling me. I was living in Monterey, Paul. I was on my bicycle then, too. Imagine that. And you're like, hey, they're going to give a Daytona Rolex away for the pole at Daytona. And I don't know if you remember. I said, I'm winning that fucker. Excuse my French. But I did. I said, I'm winning that watch. And right then I thought, and also you enlightened me that Eddie Lawson was coming to race. So it's like, wow. This is my time to shine, you know. So to get to go up against a 4-time world champ in the premier class, and you know, that's how that season started. Although I lost the race, I won the watch, but we battled the whole race, and I was like, man, I've really stepped it up. So that was the start of 93, and then we went on to Europe, and you know, we'd gone over there in 92 to test the water. We ran 3 racetracks and podiumed at a couple of them in 92. And so that's the only tracks I had seen, you know, and the rest of it was all going to be new to me. So it was a culture shock and a massive challenge to be fast everywhere, not having any data to fall back on. But I was on the up, coming up hard at that time, and I didn't care who any of those guys were. You know, I was prepared to throw down with all of them, and so the whole year was surreal to be able to battle with Eddie to start it, and then go to Europe and you know, start swinging with the best of them. And back then the World Superbike was tough, you know. It was always, you know, a big line of guys, freight train, and so I think that was definitely the highlight. How could it not be? You know, you're getting to visit all these great countries and these great racetracks, and you're doing well. I wasn't winning as many races as I wanted to. The Ducatis were pretty fast back then, so was always a little bit up against it in that respect. But in turn, it really brought my level of riding way up, because every lap was like a qualifying lap, it seemed like. So that would have been the year, obviously, 93.
I know you get tired of talking about Daytona, but it's obviously a huge part of your life. And I read somewhere, or maybe you even told me this, I don't remember, but when you drove through the tunnel there at Daytona International Speedway, you drove through that tunnel like expecting to win every year, right? I mean, it was a special feeling that you got when you arrived at that place. That's like, yeah, I'm Mr. Daytona for a reason, and that's what I do here.
Yeah, I mean, after 92, battling with Poland and pulling that one off just in the nick of time at the finish, you know, the next, and then winning the Superbike Championship 92. So I was really on the upswing. And then Daytona, I felt, well, God, if I could beat Poland, I could beat anybody, because he was the guy to beat at that time. And so, you know, and then in 93 battling with Lawson and proving that, hey, I can race with some of the best guys in the world. I mean, that was another notch. And then, you know, losing that, but then coming after that, I think, yeah, I just had this confidence about it. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Maybe a little bit cocky, but I knew that we had everything it took. And to pull this off for some reason. And maybe it was just a positive attitude that I had about it, but it was real. I felt something came over me when we showed up, because I always had my whole family and, the droves of friends that always followed me would come down, and it was like winning for them as much as it was for me. So that brings your level up. It's almost riding at a home racetrack, although it wasn't my home track, it felt like it was. So all that together was just made the magic down there.
All right, one more.
There was some luck involved in a couple of those.
Oh, yeah, but that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you take the wins any way you can get them. But we just watched some of the races the other day. I mean, I were bored, watching. I can't watch the news anymore, so I had to. Here we are, resorting to watching all these old races of mine. I'm watching Portugal right now from '93, so it's good to go back and relive it, think about it, and then think about, I mean, at the time you take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but it was a big deal. And it was a big event, an international event, and then, hey, when you top that, it's a great feeling, and you just want more of that and more of that. And so that's what I would do, try to emulate each year, just do the best I could to win again, and it just worked out that 94, I won from the back of the pack in the second wave, crashing in 95, picking it up. I mean, these are things that you can't really dream up, man.
No, you can't make this stuff up.
So, yeah,
well,
that's awesome.
We always get emails from people and stuff. Oh, when are you going to go back to Daytona? When are we going to get super bikes at Daytona? They don't understand, like, you could explain it, obviously, and I don't think you're going to disagree with me, but riding a super bike around that banking is scary shit. Am I right?
It is. And I was down there, a year ago at the end of the season. Chris Ulrich invited me to come down and, ride with their Team Hammer gig that they do in October. They had a brand new Gixxer 1000 for me. It still had lights on it. They were just taped up. But I'm out there riding around on this thing. You got to know, I have only done one year down there on 1000 with Jamie James on that Yamaha. And so here we are, fast forward to last year, and I'm out there ripping around, and the whole time I'm thinking, when's the tire going to blow off the back of this thing? This is what I'm thinking, because that's what happens when these thousands go around that banking. They just have a hard time keeping it together, and that's the part people don't understand, and it's just a dangerous deal. And as soon as I thought that, the tire chunked, the next lap. So, and this was just running around in playtime. So it's a real issue. And they tried to alter the racetrack, which in my opinion was terrible, to make that work for the 1000. So in the end, I guess it just had to end, and unfortunately the greatest race doesn't happen anymore. What the people used to look at it like, I mean, it was such a big deal. So the fact is that you just can't make it safe. It's when you're running around, never over 200 miles an hour now, in the thousands, easy. So it really poses a big problem. So there it is.
Scott, I want to talk to you about, of course, known by everybody, Mr. Daytona, and you're known. I think of you that way too, but as I think I also think of you as Mr. Loudon. And we've talked about this before. I recently did a story on it, and I get a little bit myopic about this because that was my track for a long time when I was a little bit younger, and I used to go there. And I'll never forget 92 when you dominated there, but 93 was incredible. The perspective and story I told was that I had this opportunity to work on their PR and advertising that year, and I had put in the brochure that you'd always feature the defending champion from the previous year's Loudon Classic. And back then, I mean, I had no idea that you weren't going to be defending. I didn't know that you were going to World Superbike. It was early in the season, and I had made this big thing out of you coming back, and you were on the cover. And then I found out later that you were racing in World Superbike, and I was somewhat horrified about it. And I remember talking to Gary Bear, one of the owners of the track, once we found out you were going to be there, and I told him how you know, I pretended that I knew it all along, and he laughed and said that was kind of fortuitous. And I said, yeah, but that's all from my perspective. I've told the story not as well as you could tell it, but can you kind of recount a little bit of that? So you guys were at Albuquerque, as I think you told me, and you talked to Gary Medley and somehow decided you were going to come to Loudon. Can you tell us what went on there behind the scenes a little bit?
You know, it's like you said, that was my second Daytona of the year back in the day. You know, I mean, those were the two biggest paying races, and I was all about winning some money and all about winning cool races. And when we found out, looked at the schedule and realized there was enough of a break that, you know, I had the weekend off, I posed it to those guys. I said, look, man, is there any way I can go back and run that race? And they shifted some stuff around and made Tiger So's spare bike available for me to ride. And I was just like super happy that they made that happen for me. You know, Rob did some cool things for me and let me come back and do things like that. Rode Atlanta, Daytona, all those years, you know, those are big deals. So, yeah. And so I missed a flight on the way in. So I was late getting there on that Friday. I missed the morning session, I want to say. And then just jumped on his bike in the afternoon session, and it was dry then. And I went out, and I think I was set fastest time still, but I couldn't believe how slow the bike was. It felt like a Supersport bike. And I was used to, you know, and the bikes that we ran in Europe had all the hot rod parts in it, you know, from Japan. So, and then the U.S. team, they had great bikes, but they didn't need to spend that much money on, you know, that type of parts. And I don't even know if those were available for that bike, for those bikes. So here I am riding this Superbike around after riding mine in Europe, thinking this thing feels slow, but it's a small track. There's not a horsepower racetrack, so I was like played right into the hands. And then when the rain started to fall, and I always had good runs in the rain for some reason. I had good feel and just was confident in the rain. And, you know, we came out and started racing the rain, and it was perfect. You know, the bike was down on power, but it just was the best bike ever for that condition. You know, I could ride it hard. Didn't have to really worry about the thing jumping out from under me so much. And just put my head down and rode as hard as I could, you know, and smooth as I could. And I was finding it really easy that day. And just started pulling away and lapping more people. And then near the end, there was Doug Poland. I could see him ahead, and he was the next guy going to get lapped. And it was like, that was a big deal to me. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm about to catch this guy. So, yeah, I don't know. And then I just had my head down. I did not catch him in the end, but I think he was in 6th place that day. So it was another one of those days where I can't explain how well I rode, but it just happened. And
so Scott, let me
you know, there again, I can history.
Sorry, I interrupt you, Scott. I apologize. I get excited when this story is being told because I realized it's become a little bit of a fish story for me. I didn't realize you were there on Friday, and I would have been there watching you. I just remember Saturday morning, I'm pretty sure it was raining, and you were going around that track, and I was outside of turn 6 in that bowl, and I could not believe how much faster you were going around that track in the wet than anybody else was. It was uncanny. And to show visible speed so much faster on a small track like that is even more incredible. So do you remember, I mean, how it was raining? I mean, you just went for it. I mean, you said that. You didn't seem to have any concerns at all about traction.
Well, that's definitely one of the most dangerous tracks that we went to back in the day. And there was kind of dangerous pretty much around every corner, but I blocked all that out. And just, like I said, I don't know, the bike setup was really good that day. And the bike not being like violently overpowering, you know, for the condition, it just was like, it just made this perfect day where I could ride fast, smooth, and then I just had to feel for the rain, you know, and it wasn't just that one day. I had a lot of great rain races throughout my career, and that was just another one of them. And, you know, corner speed, you could see it. You could sit down on the side of the track, you said, and you could notice the difference. I mean, that was probably a byproduct of racing in Europe already, because the Ducatis were so fast on the straights that's where I had to make my money, is off the brake and tipping into the corner and rolling through. So that's kind of where I was good on the motorcycle. I was good in a lot of areas, but through the middle of the corner, the Kawasaki and was just good, and had that good connection to the road. Dunlops worked great that day, and it's hard to explain it. You know, you just feel it and you just go with it. You flow. But I was really on the uprise then. I think, you know, I don't know how, you know, competition level here was. I mean, there were the big names out there on that day.
Oh yeah,
big, with Doug and Duhamel and guys like that. So it shouldn't have been that easy. Let's just say that. But for some reason, maybe the other guys just didn't have their setup right. Maybe they were spooked by the track a little bit, you know. But I was confident in what I could do, confident in the way the bike was feeling, and then allowed me to raise that bar even higher.
So you were riding Tiger Soa's backup bike, and you said the bike felt perfect, but you obviously had to do some changes to the setup, I'm sure. Do you remember having to get it right from his setup to your setup?
I didn't have to work too hard on the bike, Sean, because I jumped on it right away when I got there and went straight into qualifying.
Yeah.
It feels like, and I set fastest time right away on the thing. So obviously the setup of the thing was pretty good. And you know, that track doesn't have any real long duration corners real to it. It's really stop, go, you know, hacked up type of racetrack. So you weren't spending a lot of time on the edge of the tire. And, you know, that's when setup really comes into play. I mean, if the bike, you know, if the front's not diving too much, and we want to, when it's raining like that, if it's a little bit on the soft side, that's fine, you know. And so I just walked into a deal where, hey, I don't remember having to chase setup or change a whole lot of things. It was more or less just changing handlebars, position maybe in the levers, and then just getting to it, you know. So, yeah, I guess I was lucky by missing one session that weekend, the first session on Friday, that the bike was as good as it was, and as far as being set up. And it was just allowed me to kind of go out there. And then, you know, I was good at riding around problems then too, you know, like we never had a perfect motorcycle. So you always had to adapt in some way, shape, or form. And in the rain, that almost was easier, you know, because you got a light touch. You're not pushing 10 tenths in each corner. So if the setup of the bike wasn't perfect, I didn't notice it that weekend. And I don't recall having to work very hard at it. It just came easy. It was like, this is how it should be. I just showed up one thing like I wanted to and get out of here, you know.
Well, it adds to what was so magical about that year 93, and I want to emphasize some other things about it. We started the podcast with you talking about when you raced in GP, and you mentioned the fact that Suzuka was a good round for you. Well, I want to talk about 93. Well, you won at Daytona, you won at Loudon in the middle of a World Superbike season in which you won the championship. And then to top it off, you won the Suzuka 8-hour with Aaron Slade. So it's like you also added to that year too. And I mean, that was incredible. But I also want to say, did that help you once you went to Suzuka on a GP bike later?
Yeah, I mean, you spend, you know, 4 or 5 hours a day running around that racetrack. You get it figured out, and yeah, that was kind of a gift. I got to tell you, us winning the 8-hour. I mean, we were up against Lawson. Yes. And I forget who his teammate was that year, and then Mick Doohan was in it. So, I mean, the heavy hitters were there, you know, and we were not the fastest bike. That was the last year of the Formula One rules, and those bikes were essentially Grand Prix bikes with Superbike motors in them. And all I can remember is that Kawasaki being one of the worst handling bikes I'd ever ridden in my life. And I was thinking, this is going to be a long day. And Aaron Slide and I just kept chipping away, man. We just basically ran our own race, and those guys had issues. I think Eddie might have slipped down and Mick. I can't remember what happened to those guys, but look, they had problems. We didn't. We just kept it going, and we ended up winning the thing. And, you know, so, but yeah, I mean, I knew the racetrack, and I knew it well by then. And then the following year, 94, we went back, and that was the first year for Superbike rules at the Suzuka 8 Hour. And man, I was able to set the pole that year at the 8 Hour. So to win the 8 Hour and be on pole there, those are huge. That's pretty amazing stuff. But wow, what a year 93 was. I mean, to pull all that together like that, it was like the dream season. The only thing we missed was Daytona. But that, to me, felt like a win. I mean, finishing within a bike length of Lawson. I mean, hey, is there anybody else at the time that I got to prove myself against? So that was a special season, and we got a little bit of a gift that day. But like I said, you take a win any way you can get it. You know, you got to stay on it and win it, and we did that. So it was a hard day. It was a hard day that day, and definitely one of the hardest things I'd ever done, ever, on a motorcycle, to win the 8 Hour. And the humidity, it's just hardcore over there, you know, and just, it's a 8 Hour sprint race. There's no messing around. And it's a racetrack that'll work you too. You guys know there's no time to break there. You're down the back straight just briefly. The rest of the time you're intensely into it. So good concentration. I was able to do that when I was riding, to block everything out. I'm typically got a short attention span in real life, but in those instances, when, you know, situation when I was on the bike, and even now on the bicycle, it's the same. I can click into a mode that just allows me to focus on what's going on and just block everything out and just try to do the best I can.
Yeah, you know,
I was lucky to be good at that.
One of the things I wanted to say to you is, my mind sometimes draws a blank. Thanks for correcting me. 93, you didn't win Daytona. That was Eddie, of course, and I apologize to Eddie Lawson for that. Again, a fish story. It added to your magical 93 year. I basically think you've won everything you did that year, but you pretty much did for all intents and purposes. And I want to make a transition here, because one of the other things you were known for during that time period, besides obviously being the Screaming Chief and the Troy Lee Designs helmet and leathers that you had that are still iconic to this day, and so many riders still wear that helmet with the feathers on it in honor of you. But the other thing you used to wear on your leathers was, it used to have 4 letters, YETI, and I knew at the time it was an abominable snowman, but I didn't really know it was a bicycle. And you were one of the early, not only, I think you were sponsored by that company, but it was early days for cycling. So can you talk about that, how you started out with them? And then I want to transition into what you're doing now, and we'll have some questions about this new passion that you have. Well, not new, it's a passion you've had for a long time, but you're just a badass cyclist now, and we want to make sure we cover that. So tell us about the situation with Yeti back then.
That all came about from Troy Lee, obviously. You know, he and John Parker was the man who started Yeti bicycles, and he was from Durango, Colorado. And Troy had put me in contact with John, and John had put me on a good, nice mountain bike and a nice road bike back then. But I wasn't a serious cyclist back then. It was weird, you know. I just did that for more like play. I really never focused on cycling as a real training tool. I did it as a just, hey, let's go ride our bike and enjoy it. Totally different from now. But yeah, I mean, we ran the Yeti sticker, had the Yeti gig, had a GT gig, had a GT bicycle gig at some point. But again, looking back at it, it's kind of strange because I wasn't a serious cyclist then. But that's how that deal came about. Another deal from Troy and John Parker were good buddies. And I went to Durango, visited John on one of my road trips headed to California. And then that sponsorship was sparked up. So, and it was cool, you know. I love the Yeti bicycle stuff back then, and they got some cool stuff still today, although the company's gone through a lot of change. I think Swin ended up buying it from John, and they didn't do the great stuff with it. And then somebody else is owning the company now, and they're really making some good stuff again. But I know I remember the World Cup guys came, or I don't know if it's World Cup, but the top of the line mountain bike series came to Helen, Georgia. And John Parker and Troy and all them were coming, and he entered me in the pro class downhill. And I'm like, what? I don't even do this, I'm just playing. So I remember getting my ass whooped bad at my own home state up here by the pros. And I was like second to last, I think, on the downhill. And I think I would have been second in the women's pro. I thought Missy Giove was faster than I was then. So my bicycle racing career back then was definitely not what it is today, let's say. But it was cool to have those guys behind me. And I'm still staying in touch with John occasionally, which is very cool. And, yeah, I mean, Troy really helped me out in racing. He gave us the best looking stuff out on the track. So we really made a mark with that. And then having some of his guys help me was really cool.
All right, let's keep talking about the bicycles a little bit. Sean, I've been fortunate enough. Well, actually, when I was on the ride, I didn't feel that fortunate. But I've been fortunate enough to spend some days in Park City with Scott and some of the boys, Bobby Fong and Garrett Gerloff, and Cameron was with us one year, Bobier. And we did some mountain biking, and, these guys were just freaking destroying me, but, I survived. But at the time, Scott was really getting involved in it heavily. And I mean, I think your mileage goes up every year, which congratulations on you for that, because, you're not getting any younger, obviously, and neither am I, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication. And Scott, as he was with his racing career, is obviously very talented and definitely knows how to compete. So you've been doing some mountain bike racing. I don't think you've done any road bike stuff except for the training, but you've raced mountain bikes sort of a lot at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy that. I do all the training on the road, and my mountain bike miles are really limited these days. Just because it's easier just to climb on the bike, drive out of the driveway, not have to load up and go anywhere. So, yeah, it's been now, I think I'm going on 9 years straight, from cycling. If my math's correct, 06, I want to say, no, 2012 when I started getting serious about this. So, it's just being on two wheels, I guess. It makes me feel like young again, and we have a great community of cycling all around Atlanta, although that's taken a little bit of a hit with the COVID this year. A lot of people were scared to do group rides, and then I was one of them, and now I've been doing group rides for 3 months again now, maybe more. I find that I really don't have much else to do in life anymore. So I don't do the motocross thing in the backyard like we used to. That's died off. So I've sold all the dirt bikes and, just kind of turned full into a cyclist. And we have a nice program with the local shop, Roswell Bicycles. And, so I do like to do the mountain bike race. I've been doing 3-hour solo stuff. And that's, like a 3-hour sprint race, really, for me. And it's gone really well. I won the championship a couple years ago. And then last year, I didn't do so many races. I just kept riding on the road more. And then, we've done a couple races this year. And it's gone well. Obviously, the riding skills that I possess from motorcycles has been able to carry over into the bicycle thing, especially in the woods. I mean, I thought I was a pretty good motocross guy too. We don't talk about that, but I could go pretty quick on those too. And so when I get in the woods, it's just like get out of the way, folks. Here I come. It's just full tilt. And it's built into you. I've been a racer all these years. It's when they say race, something just comes out. It's like being and coming to Daytona again. And even in a mountain bike race, it's like, I'm winning this thing today. It's kind of the same mentality, but they're younger guys. Out on track. I'm never the fastest guy in the whole race, but in my age group, I tend to do pretty well. So I just love it, man. I love the intensity of it, the concentration level that it takes to go full out for 3 hours, so to speak, and the feeling of winning is kind of nice too. So I get that still through the mountain bike stuff. We won a race earlier this year. We did a team race. Bobby Fong came out. Michael Rhodes, one of the eye doctors that's on our team. And we did a team deal, and I was all intending on doing a 3-hour solo that day. Actually, I was going to do a 6-hour solo. Sorry. I was going to step it up. And then we decided to team up. And I really enjoyed that even more because I can't go full out 6 hours. There's just no way. But this way, you go 1 hour each or 1 lap each, and you just hand it off. And that we won that earlier this year or later this year. It wasn't that long ago. So that was really cool being part of a team on the mountain bike thing. It took some of the pressure and not having to ride so hard consistently for so long, and allow me to just really let it hang out each lap. But that's just who I am. That race was still inside, and there's little times like that he gets to come out and do his thing again. And then, doing all the road group rides, I've been able to up my level of fitness to a pretty good level now, to where used to I get all anxious and wonder, did I eat enough? Did I do sleep enough? For silly little group rides. Because they're fast. There's some fast guys around here, and you always want to be able to keep up. But, throughout, 8 years now, steady riding, I've gotten to a nice level to where I don't worry about it. I show up, and I can ride at the front with these guys most of the time. And it's what a great life, to have a good program. Tim Robinson has put together for us with, Giant Bicycles now, Roswell Bicycles, and we got Shimano on board helping us. We've got laser helmets. We've got the Go Pivot. That's Tim's company, and they do wellness packages for corporations, encouraging their employees to eat right, quit smoking, have less claims, just live a healthier life. And in turn, that just plays right into what we're doing, with the motorcycle bicycle thing, and having to build a team with, ex-motorcycle guys in it. And Tim's been into the motorcycle industry for years, and thank him again for putting such a cool program together. I'd still be riding, but he's made it a little bit more affordable for me to do it, and at the level I'm doing it now. And we get together and we do these team races, and that was fun. That was the first time we've teamed up and gotten it done and got the win. Now, we've done some Grand Fonda stuff that obviously we were not there to win, but we did stuff as a team. And so the whole cycling thing is just the best thing ever, man. What a healthy lifestyle. And that's what I do now. That's it.
All right. I just got a couple more things, and we're going to let you go because I told you 45 minutes and we're already over that. And I know you got stuff going on, and I know you got a ride planned, but a couple of things. I know you were faster than Bobby Fong in that endurance race. And I know if he listens to this, that's going to piss him off. So that's why I even brought it up, because he's fun to piss off.
Yeah.
Second thing is, I don't know where I heard it. But I heard there might be some wedding bells over there at the Scott house pretty soon.
Wow.
Oh, man. Yeah. You're talking about New Year's Eve. I was the same thing. I was like, how the hell I can't even stay awake till midnight anymore. But now we're going to get married, and we're going to get married at 4:30. So I should be able to stay awake for that. And yeah. So that's my New Year's this year, a New Year's resolution to get married on.
Well,
And Erica,
congratulations.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
I don't know her very well. I've only met her a few times, but anybody that likes Scott Russell, I like. So I congratulate you on that. I think that's going to be a good deal for you. And I wish you all the best. Wish you all the best, not necessarily just in the marriage, but actually staying up on New Year's Eve.
Oh yeah, thanks. I don't know if I'll make it to midnight still, I'll be honest. So that's why we did it so early in the evening. Yeah. And it's going to be super small gathering at this cool little chapel that we found up in North Georgia, up in the mountains. And then we got a cabin rented for a few days. And, super easy gig, I mean, we're just a small gathering. So, yeah, thank you. And it'll be another challenge. But we've been together for 8 years now. So it's like, we got this.
I was going to say part of this story, which is the part I love the most, is as I recall, Erica is somebody you used to know back in the day, and then you lost touch with her, and then you got back together. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, like we dated in '98, and we met in Daytona when I was down there for a tire test in December. How we used to go down in '97 December, we met, and then we connected and we dated for a little over a year. And she went to Europe with me and got to see a lot of the stuff. It wasn't the good stuff because I was riding the Yamaha, and that wasn't a great year in '98. But I mean, hey, and then we, went our separate ways for 15 years, and we always stayed in touch. And we reconnected back when I was doing the TV commentary down there in Daytona one year, and here she stands right now. And so.
That's great.
You find somebody that's going to hang out with you that long, or you're me, you better go on and do that, because
absolutely
people don't know the real me.
I can only say one more thing.
It's hard for her.
I can only say one more thing. God bless her.
Yeah.
Yes. God bless her. That's right. She's going to need it. Tell you what, I'll try to be good. And
Scott's mellowed.
Good.
Scott's mellowed. Scott's not the screaming chief. He could be. When he's on the bicycle, he is, but he's a gentle soul now. I love that about him. Hey, Scott, I got one more question for you. And this is related to, I want to point out, you had mentioned Go Pivot Cycling, which is the team you're on that has Bobby Fong and Garrett Gerlach. And I mean, it's a pretty diverse group because you mentioned Tim Robinson. There's a couple doctors on it. There's a couple car racers in Catherine Legg and Andy Lally. So there are a lot of athletes from a lot of different disciplines involved in that. And when I saw you a couple years ago at Utah and I interviewed you for MotoAmerica, you're a specimen now. I just have to say that. And I mean, you've always been, in my opinion, in good shape, and have always been a pretty thin guy. But I mean, your fitness is off the charts now, and it was a couple of years ago. So my question to you is, did you train back in the day, and are you in better shape now than you were then?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, it was just youth on my side, right? And then I had a hell of a lot of talent. I was put here to race motorcycles, there's no doubt. So to find that and be able to go with it, I was just very lucky. But I just relied on, my fitness and being young back then. I mean, I wasn't focused at all on training. I mean, the world has changed now. At that time, and Rainey and those guys were probably training super hard. But I don't know, I wasn't. And I was just kind of taking it as it come. And I was just, like I said, a casual bicyclist back then. But yeah, now, man, it's I did not train like I did back then. And I wish I would have, but the competition wouldn't have liked it if I would have. I think if I would have really put my head to it back in the day, there's no telling how many races or championships I could have won. I wasn't as focused on being as good as I could have been then. And I kick myself a little bit about it now, but I still got away with a pretty cool career. So I don't beat myself up too bad. But I left a lot of stuff on the table. I could have done a lot more. And now, thanks to the cycle, I mean, it'll I don't look too young, but I've got the fitness of a 20-year-old, you know, according to my whoop. So I like what the whoop tells me, and you know, I just keep rolling with it. And man, I tell you what, I encourage everybody to get a bicycle and ride. Paul, you know, it's the fountain of youth if you have the time, and you can really put the time, because it takes time to get to where I'm at. And I mean, hours and hours. I mean, I was looking at it the other day of how many hours and how many miles I've put in. You know, it's just crazy, you know. And but it's a great, healthy world to live in, and yeah, thanks, man, for noticing. And so I've worked real hard at being in good shape, and that's all I want to do now. So it's a way of life now.
Well, I think we're going to let you go here, Scott. And it's good to know that if I get fired, I'll be able to get in better shape. So that's one good takeaway from this. But I appreciate, and I know Sean does as well. I really appreciate you joining us. You've always been one of my favorites, and as if I was you, I wouldn't look back with any regrets, because you obviously accomplished a lot, and you had a little fun on the way. So there's nothing to be ashamed about with that. And now you get to turn it all around and keep going and keep training and race with these young guys and keep kicking their ass. So congrats with that. Congrats with the upcoming wedding. I know that's going to work out well for you. You're going to have a good time and a really good rest of your life. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of you, because we're going to have you at MotoAmerica races, and you're going to be you can be our little, what would you call it? Marshal, Grand Marshal or something.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I'll do. Let's do it. Let's do it. I appreciate what you guys are doing for road racing and doing the best y'all can to keep this thing going. It's and I look forward to seeing y'all at some events next year, you know, and hopefully things will be going well. And it's always good to see you guys.
Great. Well, let me finish up doing this little promotion. Right now we've got, you know, it's obviously a holiday season, and we've got a chance for the fans to purchase tickets at select events at 25% off. You just have to go to the MotoAmerica website, click on schedule, and you can look at the venues, the rounds where you're going to be able to get 25% off. And that's Road Atlanta, Scott's home track, Virginia International Raceway, Pittsburgh International Raceway, International Race Complex, sorry, pit race, New Jersey Motorsports Park, and Barber Motorsports Park. And the offer ends actually Christmas night at 11:59 Pacific. So if you're on the East Coast like Scott and I, got a little bit of time into December 26th to get in on this, but do it now. Go on the website, get your tickets for this coming year, and you'll get 25% off at these select locations. And you probably are going to get to see Scott there too, which is another reason to get in on this for 2021. So just want to mention that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks guys. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank y'all, and y'all have a great day.
All right, you take care, guys.